Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto, text 51. Chapter is entitled Prayers by Queen Kunti, which I have already finished. Srinamadatta bandhunam drohoyo sau ihotita karma bir grihamediyair naham kalpo vyapohitum Srinamadatta bandhunam drohoyo sau ihotita karma bir grihamediyair naham kalpo vyapohitum karma bir grihamediyair naham kalpo vyapohitum Namadatta bandhunam drohoyo sau ihotita karma bir grihamediyair naham kalpo vyapohitum Srinamadatta bandhunam drohoyo sau ihotita karma bir grihamediyair naham kalpo vyapohitum Strinam of the women Mat by me Hata bandhunam of the friends who are killed Drohaha enmity Yaha that Asau all those Iha herewith Uthita has accrued Karma bihi by dint of work Grihamediyai by persons engaged in material welfare Na never Aham I Kalpaha can expect Vyapohitum and doing the same. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki I have killed many friends of women and I have thus caused enmity to such an extent that it is not possible to undo it by material welfare work. Purport. The Grihamidis are those whose only business is to perform welfare work for the sake of material prosperity. Such material prosperity is sometimes hampered by sinful activities, for the materialist is sure to commit sins, even unintentionally, in the course of discharging material duties. To get relief from such sinful reactions, the Vedas prescribe several kinds of sacrifices. It is said in the Vedas that by performing the Ashvamedha Yagya, horse sacrifice, one can get relief from even Brahmahatya, killing of a Brahmana. Yudhishthira Maharaj performed this Ashvamedha Yagya, but he thinks that even by performing such yagyas, it is not possible to get relief from the great sins committed. In war, either the husband or the brother, or even the father or sons go to fight. And when they are killed, a fresh enmity is created, and thus a chain of actions and reactions increases, which is not possible to be counteracted, even by thousands of Ashwamedha yagyas. The way of work, karma, is like that. It creates one action and another reaction simultaneously, and thus increases the chain of material activities, binding the performer in material bondage. In the Bhagavad Gita, the remedy is suggested that such actions and reactions of the path of work can be checked only when work is done on behalf of the Supreme Lord. The battle of Kurukshetra was actually fought by the will of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, as it is evident from his version, and only by his will was Yudhishthira placed on the throne of Hastinapur. Therefore, factually, no sin whatsoever touched the Pandavas, who were only the order carriers of the Lord. For others who declare war out of personal interest, the whole responsibility lies on them. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Praladananda Swamiti Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Shashashnavadi Pashyade Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So of course Srila Prabhupada explains in this purport that Yudhishthira Maharaj is speaking about himself as very fallen, but it's not the case. Yudhishthira Maharaj was always acting under Krishna's guidance, so it doesn't matter that millions of people were killed, he gets no karma. It's called akarma. You do something for Krishna, whatever happens, no problem. And of course this is extreme case, we don't go around and kill people. But if you do, the point is that if you do something under the instruction of Krishna, whatever happens, people might be upset with you, people might be, sometimes when you preach, some people are getting inimical. No problem, no reaction. And if you do something according to your own interest, there's always problems. Lots of problems. Material world is very entangling. It's explained here in this purport. You start something, and then you start something. And entangling means that it binds you. You start something and think you will finish after some time. And then there's always something more. Like Bhaktayan, he finished his school year 3 weeks ago or 1 month ago. And then we were talking yesterday, he said, tomorrow I have to go to school. Like, hey, aren't you finished? So no, I have to go to school. So the material world is like this. Just this thing, and then you're done, But you're never done. And then after this thing is like, just another, and one small thing. So hopefully, end of June he will be done. No, I'm just joking. It was just funny because I was preparing for the class and I was talking with him, and it was like, what? So that's how material world works, I remember my construction project, I have this apartment, and then I wanted to rent it, and it was good enough for me, but not good enough for renting. When you rent it, it has to be something, For me, I just don't care. I put one mat somewhere and saha, very good, amazing. So we started, and my idea was that we do 2 weeks and it's done, And it ended up like a joke, Just joke. It was the joke of 2 more weeks and we're done. So then 2 months passed, of working there every day, And after 2 months, you get to this point, it's like, we're done. yes, but still this should be done, this should be done, this should be done. And they're like, no, we're done, finished. So this is the classical experience of everyone who has done some construction work. It's always, it always takes more than, than what you expect. There's always something more that has to be done. It's the same with cleaning, you know. You start cleaning, and you do this, and you do this, that, and then you see, oh, but this is also dirty. And then you have to clean that also. And then, but this is also dirty. Oh, and this is not organized. Okay, you have to organize. And it can take forever. And you, at some point, you just have to stop somewhere and say, hey, it's clean, it's done, finished. One explanation I heard at some point, that cleaning is good to understand that it's never going to be clean. I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't. This material world is never going to be clean. You know, like you clean your body and always, nah. It's meant to. Srila Prabhupada did say we have to be revolutionarily clean, but still, it's unclean by nature. So you cannot completely fix it. The more you go in that direction, the more you have to do more. Also, it's described this war stuff, how things work. And I heard a similar story about the, I think in Ireland, they have these Catholics and the Protestants. And they fight, you know. And there's these stories about that one person comes, one Catholic, for example, comes to a Protestant's house and he kills someone, the father of the family. And there's a small child who's like 5-year-old. And he's, you don't kill 5-year-olds, so they have at least that much distances. And then this 5-year-old grows up. He grows up with seeing his father killed by the Catholic, and then he grows up, and then he goes around and he kills some Catholics. So then it goes on for generations, you know, like just because one person killed another person, then it goes on for generations that Catholics and Protestants, they kill each other. And my father was killed by the Catholics, so I have to kill some Catholic people. There's no connection with anything, you know. So they just killed each other, bam, 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 bam. And it takes one killing, and the reactions go on for 100 years, you know. Just generation after generation. So that's how things are. So Maharaj Yudhishthira, he understands this, and he understands that there is no fix to these material problems by doing some material solutions. Srila Prabhupada always say that all organizations for peace are useless. They have all this this organization, that organization, food relief, this problem, solve this problem. And what's the result? No result. he would joke that the United Nations, you know, the United Nations is supposed to get unity among the nations. And what are they doing? They're actually just increasing the number of flags, you know. What does that mean? There was 130 nations, and they got to 150 or 170, or I don't know the numbers. But just increasing the number of flags. So what does it mean? That one of these nations, they were fighting inside, and then they split into 2 parts. So that's why there's more flags. So Srila Prabhupada would just use these examples that it doesn't work, you know, all these material endeavors, we're gonna fix, we're gonna have peace, we're gonna this. It doesn't work. There's no solution. in the 6th canto, this discussion is there. 6th canto comes after 5th canto, and at the end of the 5th canto, Shukadev Goswami describes these hellish planets, and it's very graphical and very nice. If you think you want to do some sinful activities, you can just read that part. And so, for example, if you like hot women, men say nowadays that they like hot women, so they go to hell, and there's a hell where they have hot women out of some metal, very hot, like 200 degrees, 300, 500 degrees, and they are forced to embrace these women. Okay, you like hot women? Here you go. They get just burned, you know. So this is the reaction for illicit sex. So Maharaj Parikshit is hearing this, and he's like, oh, all these rascals are going to hell. What can be done? You know, because he's a Vaishnava, so he's thinking. So that's why after this, Maharaj Parikshit is asking, hey, what can be done for these people? You know, they are all going to hell. What can be done? So Shukadev Goswami first is testing him. You know, he says, yeah, we do. There's this in the Vedas. There's this. It's called prayashchita. I don't know what's the English word for prayashchita. Atonement. It's called in English. Atonement. That you do something that you counteract. You know, like in Christianity, that you go and confess your sins and so on. So Shukadev Goswami first he answers. Testing Parikshit Maharaj, he says, yeah, you know, you just do some atonement and try, problem solved. You know, you don't have to go to hell anymore. And what does Parikshit Maharaj say? He says, yeah, sounds like a good solution. No? What does he say? What do you think? Of course, no. He says, no. This is not gonna work. Prayashchita is like the elephant baiting, you know. I actually saw a movie on YouTube. That's actually how they do it. The elephant goes on and he takes a nice bath, and he's clean, you know. And as soon as he gets back on the land, he takes some sand and he puts on his body. Immediately, you know. I've seen the video, you know. It's like that. Probably it cools them down or something, but immediately they get dirty again. So what's the point of the bath? You know, you just take a bath and then you know you're clean, and then you do something. So prayashchita is the same, you know. It doesn't solve the problem. I'm just reading this Prabhupada Lilamrita, and at some point Srila Prabhupada got some information from some newspapers that the leaders were concerned about crime in the US. So they were thinking, crime is increasing, what can be done? And Srila Prabhupada gave the example that people know the law. It's not that people don't know the law. And it's not that they don't see that others do some illegal activities and get to prison and they get in trouble. They see. But they still do it. They do it anyway. I'll just read this Maharaj Parikshit's answer to this first proposal of Shukadev Goswami that we'll do prayashchita, we'll do atonement. Maharaj Parikshit said, one may know that sinful activity is injurious for him because he actually sees that a criminal is punished by the government and rebuked by people in general, and because he hears from scriptures and learns scholars that one is thrown into hellish conditions in the next life for committing sinful acts. So he hears, he knows. Nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. Therefore, what is the value of such atonement? Sometimes one who is very alert so as not to commit sinful acts is victimized by sinful life again. I therefore consider this process of repeated sinning and atoning to be useless. It is like the baiting of an elephant, for an elephant cleanses itself by taking a full bath, but then throws dust over its head and body as soon as it returns to the land. So Srila Prabhupada got his arguments from here, from Maharaj Parikshit. And then Shukadev Goswami confirmed, yes, that's true. You're right. You're smart. You're a good disciple. I was just testing you. And what is the solution? You know, what's the solution to this problem? So Shukadev Goswami says that the only solution is to clean the heart of the sinner. And that should be done by following the proper process, which means chanting Hare Krishna. So the next part of this canto is Shukadev Goswami tells the story of Ajamil. That's how they are connected. He was very nice Brahmana, born in a Brahminical family. Sometimes people say, oh, Ajamil just chanted by mistake. Yes, but he was a brahmachari. He lived in the temple before. He was trained at home, actually. But so he was trained into Krishna consciousness. He was worshipping Narayana. He knew exactly what he was doing. And then he messed up. Yes, he messed up and he got really bad. And somehow or other, because of his activities in a young age, because he was doing lots of devotional service in his young age, Krishna tricked him. And somehow he got, as far as I understand, there was this sage who was visiting, and he gave him he asked for, Ajamil asked for a benediction, and the sage said, my benediction is that you have to name the son who is just now coming, Narayan. So Krishna tricked him. He made him name his child Narayan. And he actually remembered Narayan when he chanted in despair Narayan at the end of the life. It was not so simple as we sometimes present it, he actually remembered. He was in despair and chanting Narayan, and then he remembered, oh, I used to worship Narayan. Oh. When I was young, I used to be a Hare Krishna. If you're a devotee, and you live in the temple and do lots of activities, and you go really, really it goes really bad, and at the end of the life you chant, someone chants Hare Krishna, and then he might even remember, hey, I used to be a Hare Krishna. Oh, Krishna. So he actually remembered Narayan to some degree. So he was saved. We'll go back to this part later. So the solution to Ajamil's problem was spiritual. He did all this nonsense, but he was saved because he was chanting Hare Krishna. He was chanting Narayan, actually, but same thing. So there was not a material solution to this. Probably no material prayashita could have covered for what Ajamil was doing. So another incident, interesting, I think it's mentioned in Science of Self-Realization. There was a huge drought in India No rain. So there was no food in India, in that part of India. And they wrote to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada said, hey, Srila Prabhupada, you know, there's no food here. You have this Food for Life program. Maybe you can help. And do you know what Srila Prabhupada said? Chant Hare Krishna. So Vaji knows everything. So Srila Prabhupada says, they are sinful, that's why they have no food. So they should start chanting Hare Krishna. And then they will have food, no problem. So if you look from a mundane point of view, you think this is not very compassionate, you know. These people are starving. And you go and say, hey, just chant Hare Krishna. If you would try to do this, then it would be, we might get in trouble. But Srila Prabhupada did say that. That's the truth, actually, you know. And even from a material point of view, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Anat Bhavanti Bhutani Parjanat Anasambhava, Yagyat Bhavati Parjanyo Yagya Karma Samudbhava. All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains, which is simple science, Krishna explains. You want food, there has to be some rains. And then he says, rains are produced by performers of yagya. So it's very simple. This is from material perspective, not spiritual. You don't perform yagya, there are no rains, so there is no food. You want to eat, you have to chant Hare Krishna. Once there was one devotee, he said that he told me that he's thinking, he was some sort of devotee, he's thinking if he should chant Hare Krishna or not. Because, I mean, he saw it somehow as optional, you know. You know, I have everything in my life, and maybe I chant Hare Krishna, maybe not. And then I quoted this part to him, and I tried to explain that, hey, you don't chant Hare Krishna, you don't even eat. You don't have something to eat. So even if you want to eat, you should still chant Hare Krishna. So anyway, that's the point. There's a similar event I remembered this morning. It was somewhere in either in the US or in Australia. I will have to search for this event. And there was a similar drought. There was no rains, so it was really heavy. Didn't rain for, I don't know, for months or something like this. And everyone was concerned about it. And devotee said, we know how to solve it. We're gonna solve it. And they were like, okay, you know, situation is desperate, we're gonna give it a try. So devotees went to the radio station, and then they explained, hey, you want rain? You have to chant Hare Krishna. In America. And this moderator was like, okay, let's try it. And he was just pumping everyone who heard the radio. Everyone who hears the radio now, they have to chant Hare Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna. And he was just pumping, you know, like, hey, chant Hare Krishna, chant Hare Krishna, we're gonna solve, it's gonna rain. And then after 1 hour of the show, or half an hour or something, the black clouds started coming on the sky, you know. And by the time the show was over, it was like pouring, you know, like heavy rain, you know, like, wow. So it worked, you know. Of course, it's not, that's not the usual way how it works, you know, like, it's not like instant, but it worked, you know. And of course, eating is not the main purpose of chanting Hare Krishna. Because you eat, you eat, and then after some hours you have to eat again. So problem is not really solved. Even if you are saved from hell, like Ajamil was saved from hell, that's the only temporary solution. Because later you might mess up and go to hell anyway. You got saved for some time, and then you mess up and you get to hell anyway. Ajamil was a real Brahmana until he messed up. He made a small mistake and then he messed up. He was a real Brahmana. He was really, so you skip going to hell at this moment, and then later you can mess up. So the only solution is that you go back home, back to Godhead. Then there is no more problem. You develop pure love for Krishna, and then you go back home, back to Godhead, and in spiritual world there is no problem of not enough food. There is no problem of going to hell. There is no problem of getting liberation. There's no problem. So that's the only solution. And of course, the process is chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam Kalau Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva, Gatir Anyata. In this Kali Yuga, there's no other process for going back to Godhead. But, there is a but. The process is chanting Hare Krishna without offenses. Back to Godhead. At that point. He chants some sort of Hare Krishna, calling his child and so on. So that's good. That's good enough to get him out of hell, to stop him from going to hell. But it's not enough to bring him back to Godhead. So then Ajamil is coming back, and then he engages in the process, and then he goes back to Godhead. So some sort of chanting can save people from. It can give food. It can even give liberation. But it's not gonna make us go back home, back to Godhead, and it's not gonna give us love for Krishna. So if you want to have a final solution, we have to follow the process properly. Because if we chant with offenses, then what is the result? Lord Chaitanya says, there's this verse, I learned there was this one devotee, he's now a sannyasi now, and he, because in some places people usually chant the 10 offenses before chanting the Maha Mantra, before they do japa. And he was also teaching us this verse, which is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which says, Bahujanma karayadi shravana kirtana, tabutana paya Krishna pade premadana. If one is infested with the 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, despite his endeavor to chant the holy name for many births, he says many births, he will not get the love of Godhead that is the ultimate goal of this chanting. And there's two verses after, says, if a devotee wants liberation or material sense gratification from the Lord, Krishna immediately delivers it. Very easy. You want liberation, you want some sense gratification, good wife, very easy. But pure devotional service, he keeps hidden. So the point is, the process is chanting Hare Krishna, yes, without offenses. That's if you want to achieve Krishna Prema. Srila Prabhupada I was reading Madhurya Kadambini a few times, and there's more details explained there by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, how there's different anarthas which are produced from different from past sinful activities, from past pious activities, and so on. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there, he explains that most of them are not very consequential. These anarthas, you just chant Hare Krishna and you continue. And they will get purified. But the anarthas which are caused by offenses, not so easy. So you have to be very careful. So when I was reading this, I was like, wow. Srila Prabhupada is so amazing. You know, he just extracted the basis, the most important things. You have to chant Hare Krishna, and you have to chant without offenses. And if you just do that, then life is very easy in Krishna consciousness. So I was like just amazed. Yeah, so sometimes we should, no, there's no time to go through, but sometimes we should remember these offenses and then remember that we should, that the actual process is to chant Hare Krishna without offenses. Srila Prabhupada also wrote them very early. Because otherwise, usually when you chant the offenses, at the end we say, every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. So the conclusion is, we'll not go into that, is that the only prayaschitta, the only atonement that actually works is that we chant Hare Krishna, we follow the process as set up by Srila Prabhupada, and we go back to Godhead. And so the solution to crime is that people will chant Hare Krishna, and they will become pure devotees, and there's no crime. If the solution to lack of food is that devotees chant Hare Krishna, they become pure devotees, they go back to Godhead, and there's no problem of food. And so on. So all the problems of the world, there can be temporary solutions, which sometimes might be useful, but the only real solution is you go back to Godhead. So, yeah. One funny thing, I was just reading to Prabhupada Lilamrita, and there was this mayor there's a suburb of Chicago, I think. And Srila Prabhupada made the mayor, and he says, okay, you want to know what's my solution for crime? You give us a big building, we get everyone here, and they will chant Hare Krishna, and there will be no more crime. The crime rate will decrease. So Srila Prabhupada actually proposed this to the mayor. And the mayor, of course, he said, yeah, but this is supposed to be the new city hall. Yeah. But that's the solution. And at least maybe sometimes when there's a drought, we first give them prasadam and then we tell them to chant Hare Krishna. But we should be convinced that this is the only solution. The only thing that will solve the problems in the world is that people chant Hare Krishna. So, okay. Good. I'll stop here. If there are some comments, questions, concerns. Vishapa Prabhu is the official questioner.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for the class. Anyone has any questions? Okay then. Yeah, it's like amazing Prabhu, as you said. In Kali Yuga, people like politicians are not able to understand this simple truth because of their sinful mentality and destroyed intelligence and no qualities. It's like amazing even that they accept anything, just accept prasadam, or it's just it's a big thing for them. I had a question regarding actually your last lecture. Is that okay? Yeah. So it was actually, I think it's verse 49. 50, there was mentioned that Yudhishthira Maharaj said that in the war there were lots of men, family, children and women killed in the Kurukshetra war. So I'm just curious, how come he said that children and women were killed in the Kurukshetra war?
Actually, I don't know. No, because normally these wars between kshatriyas, it's like proper wars. It's not like Srila Prabhupada would give this example when they had the war in Vietnam, you know, and he was it was a big thing when Prabhupada came to America, and he was saying that this is not the Vedic culture, and in Vedic culture you don't get just anyone and send him to the war, you know, because as far as I understand, I mean, I don't know, I have to check this, but as far as I understand, this was they were just all kshatriyas, the ones who were fighting there.
Maybe indirectly they were killed.
Yeah, maybe.
Because the
I don't
fathers
know.
and, you know, if husbands and fathers were killed and then the child, you know, or something.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate, but that's my understanding, that mostly they were kshatriyas and they knew exactly what they are doing, and they were not this kind of people that you know, they have to get 2 bottles of vodka to be able to, otherwise their weapon will shake. No, they were kshatriyas, you know. Okay. It was like for them, I heard it's you know, like they have now football, and there's a Champions League, and there's a final of Champions League, you know, like for some footballer or for some this like final of the Champions League is like what he was preparing for his whole life, you know. So these kshatriyas, you know, who were in Kurukshetra, they were a bit in this mood, you know. For them was like, all right, finally something is going on. There's gonna be some arrows passing by. Jai, amazing. All right, bring it on, you know. So yeah, it was that was the mood of most of, as far as I understand, of course, in the later stages of the Battle of Kurukshetra, some strange things started happening. So I don't know the details. Like they were not following the rules anymore, but generally, you know, they were just kshatriyas, you know. Okay.
Yeah. You will let me know how much.
Well, Ramatirtha Prabhu has a question. So.
Hare Krishna. According to what you are saying about these offenses and this, do you maybe find something, because I didn't read yet, when we are in this anartha-nivritti process, there of course will be offenses, there are, you know, so how, because it's also saying in the Shastra that holy name is above the offenses, that this holy name can be put away. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, I mean, as there's different anarthas and we do make mistakes, but as far as I understand, for the offenses, there's offenses to the holy name, and there's offenses in deity worship, and the offenses in deity worship are, as far as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, there's no, you just have to continue chanting. Of course, if you do them intentionally, then it's the same as offenses to the holy name. So usually, but these offenses, as far as I understand, of course we have we chant Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadvaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, and it's supposed that some offenses they don't take effect, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be careful with the offenses. We should be really cautious about these offenses, and there's, for each offense there is generally there's something you can do to counteract it. like the simple offense, the simple thing is if you offend a devotee with blaspheming someone, then you have to go and apologize and try to fix it. It's not, we should be really cautious about it. Yeah, for blaspheming the Shastra, you have to glorify the Shastra and so on. Or also for blaspheming the devotees, if you do this in public, then you have to fix it also. Yeah, you have to say, yeah, you know, because you offended this person, and then everyone else heard, you know. And if you just apologize to this person, then all the others, they might have a misconception. Yeah, this is the theory. I mean, it's good to have this culture. So, with the Shastra is the same. With and it's the same thing that you don't just go and apologize. You try to correct the attitude which generated. The same with Prayashita. Otherwise, it's just like, Prabhu, I offend you, and then I'm like, Prabhu, I'm sorry I offended you. And then 5 minutes later, I say, Prabhu, you're really a rascal. What are you doing? You know, so the point, I have to correct this mentality also. Otherwise, it will go on and again. So as far as I understand, and there's other anarthas which are generated from past sinful and pious activities, and there's one more which I don't remember now, which you just chant Hare Krishna and that's it. But if you make offenses, then there is some measures that we should take, you know. And even though the Vaishnavas don't take offenses, still we have to do the reaction. The example is because Vaishnavas, they are usually not offended. Or we're trying to be Vaishnavas. So we try to not be offended, you know. Whatever someone says, you know, like it goes in here and like, okay, he has a bad day, whatever, you know. And there's this case of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. Ambarish Maharaj didn't get offended. He didn't feel offended. He was just, you know, like Durvasa Muni tried to kill him, and Ambarish Maharaj was like, hey, where did he go? And 1 year after, when Durvasa Muni comes, you know, after being chased by Sudarshan Chakra all over the universe, Maharaja Durvasa Muni comes and he apologizes, and Ambarish Maharaj says, what for? What did you do? He's like, hey, you know, nothing happened, and there's no offense. But Krishna took offense. Krishna, through Sudarshan Chakra, he took it seriously. So sometimes, even if the devotees... So my understanding is that we should be very careful about this. And although we do make offenses, and we should try to not make offenses and to try to to get to this Namabhasa stage that we chant without offenses, although it's not pure holy name, but so that's our that's the biggest challenge also, actually, you know. The biggest reason why someone is leaving Krishna consciousness is because of offenses. And this is the biggest challenge in Kali Yuga, because we have this tendency, you know, like to criticize. We always like to criticize. This is the tendency in Kali Yuga, and that's the society, and there's like just criticizing, you know. And there's an effect to that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains there in Madhurya Kadambini that sometimes you might think there's no effect to when you're offending a devotee. This is a small devotee, so there's no effect. And he says there's an instant effect. And the instant effect is loss of intelligence. It's, so the effect is there. It's not thunderbolt in your face or something. But the effect is loss of intelligence. And with this loss of intelligence, you continue someone continues criticizing, someone continues, and then he's kicked out of the association of the devotees. And sometimes it's not that the devotees kicked him out. Sometimes he kicks himself out, like it's like, oh, this guy is a rascal, this guy is a rascal, this guy is a rascal. Why do I associate with these rascals? And he just goes away, he just disappears, So like, so there is a reaction, and this is the reaction, and this is a very, very dangerous reaction. So, yeah, the point is we should be very careful with these offenses, especially with the offense of blaspheming the devotees, against the devotees. Lord Chaitanya compares this with, how do you say this, angry elephant, I don't know, I'm missing the English word. Yeah, in the garden. You have this elephant in the garden, and this garden is our devotional plant. And if you have the elephant there, then he will just uproot. Everything is like destroyed. So, we should be very careful about this. And as we were talking before, the way we associate with the devotees is the most important thing in our spiritual life. And if you're respectful, the solution to this is not just not to offend the devotees, but to try to appreciate the devotee, try to serve the devotee, try to, to have the good attitude with the devotees, and then, this is our challenge in Kali Yuga, cooperating and it's hard, Prabhu. Okay, we stop here. We'll give some just next time. Okay, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki